I got Canelo.
Okay, I got Canelo too.
Yeah.
Why do you have Canelo?
I got Canelo. Number one reason I got Canelo is because of the layoff. I just think that there's been too much time off.
People don't think about this when it comes to fighting Canelo. The energy is totally different from anything we've ever experienced.
Surprisingly, the fight, which nobody even thought about 6 months earlier, quickly became one of the most anticipated events of the fall. Right from the very beginning, many of us thought that the rivalry between Canelo and Charlo was a strange match with a predetermined outcome. But you know, the history of boxing teaches us that one should never write the underdog off. Even such great champions like Canelo can fall sooner or later, but the question still stands, will it happen in the fight with Jermell or not? Let's try to figure it out. Dear friends, today's video is dedicated to a technical breakdown of the fight between Saúl Álvarez and Jermell Charlo. Please don't forget about the likes, comments with forwards, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the new videos. Here we go! Those who are watching this video are likely familiar with the story of Canelo and Charlo, so we won't get too deep into their biography and will just remember the key moments. Okay, Saúl Álvarez. If you don't know this name, then you likely got here by accident. For many years now, the Mexican is rightfully recognized as the main face of modern boxing. It would be a crime to not mention at least a fraction of his incredible achievements. In total, Saúl won 20 title fights, became the champion in one of the major organizations in 4 different weight classes, collected and defended all super middleweight titles numerous times, and also climbed to the top of the list of the highest paid boxers of today, and even got to Forbes top 10. And what surprises the most is that Álvarez managed to achieve all of this before turning 34, and he still has time to update a couple of records. Sure, Canelo's career is not going through its brightest period right now. Just a year ago, he lost to Dimitri Bivol and delivered 2 not the most impressive performances, but these events can hardly overshadow all of his remarkable accolades. In fact, Saúl really is an outstanding athlete whom one should respect at least for an ever-burning desire to reach new heights and keep working hard. I think that among all great Mexican boxers, Canelo's contribution to the sport and drawing attention to it is the most significant one, and we should thank him for that as well. And did Álvarez's opponent Jermell Charlo have time to leave his mark in history? Not the most unambiguous question. The Iron Man put in painstaking and hard work on the path to his championship and reached his goal in 2016. At that moment, when the guy conquered the title, it was not a big thing, but in his first 3 title defenses, he delivered 2 amazing knockouts which helped him to get noticed by the masses. Charlo's future seemed bright until he stumbled on Tony Harrison, who managed to snatch his belt. In a hard rematch, Jermell retrieved what was rightfully his and then decided to become the undisputed super welterweight champion. But again, he almost slipped, facing the Rock named Brian Castano. In that fight, Charlo had toughened it out with his character to get the victory, but still the judges scored it a draw, which made Jermell and his coaching team dig deep and put in hard work. And a few months later, he delivered the best performance of his career in the rematch, finishing Castano in the end of the 10th round. All the titles finally found its owner, but there were a lot of questions left to the Iron Man. Is he really the rightful champion? Unfortunately, we didn't have time to check that, as we were given an unexpected surprise with the announcement of the fight between Canelo and Charlo. Jermell agreed to move up 2 weight classes, only to get a chance to secure his spot under the sun, as in case of a win, he will instantly become a worldwide sensation. But will it happen? To answer that question, we have to break down the boxer's technique in detail. Technique. Canelo and his technique is something mysterious. Why did I pick such a word? The thing is that everybody in this world knows what and how the Mexican will do, but almost nobody manages to offer something worthy in return. The fundamentals of Canelo's style come down to 4 main components: pressure, reflexes, body shots, and a granite chin. If we look a bit in the past, then we might recall that at the beginning of his career, Canelo wasn't as straightforward as he is now. In some fights he even worked as a second number for the most part and looked rather good. He could brilliantly catch with a counter or simply outstrike, but in the last couple of years, Alvarez's approach to his fights is unaltered. He always starts the first round actively, keeps the center of the ring, and stalks the opponent. In the best case scenario, Saúl managed to press his opponent to the ropes and barrage him with power combinations consisting of left uppercut to the liver and slicing short hooks. Boxers that went up against the Mexican are not fools and know that they will be pushed to the edge, so they are constantly trying to move. In this case, Saúl will go after his prey as long as he needs to and wait for the right moment to explode, and better believe he will find that moment. Canelo knows how to counterattack, expose breaches in the opponent's defense thanks to his combinations and pressure. And he is also not really scared of incoming shots, as he can take risks and attack, knowing that he will get hit and withstand. The champion often uses a combination of a jab and long step forward for a right hook, but recently he works more with single strikes, focusing on the liver. In his defense, Alvarez relies more on his block and not his reflexes and natural speed as he did a couple of years ago. Perhaps the reason could be the start of his decline or something else. Overall, Saúl's style gradually degrades, becoming less creative and more straightforward, which can't help but upset. And what can Jermell do? More often than not, the American works as the second number in his fights, and when he was forced to move forward, he looked a lot worse. Luckily, I don't see the scenario where Alvarez will retreat, so Charlo will work in his common style. The Iron Man represents a more classic boxing school than the Mexican. He throws a lot of 1-2s, focuses on the body and puts a lot of power in the left hook counter, which in combination with his style of a second number delivers great results. In the rematch with Tony Harrison, the champion dismantled his opponent exclusively with that strike, knocking him down twice and eventually scoring a finish. For the last fight, Jermell made a big progress in terms of defensive actions. The guy stopped eating all the damage with his hands or forehead, began to move a lot more and properly work with his body. It's hard to call Charlo a natural knockout artist, but he learned to use his power and utilize it at the right time. That's why he scored more knockouts in recent years. Charlo's body shots also became more dangerous and caused a significant impact on the stamina and also internal organs. Speaking about Jermell's weak traits, one could mention a poor work in the clinch and sometimes excessive emotionality, which make him throw windmills and not box as he really can. Endurance and mentality. Endurance wasn't Canelo's strong trait even during his best years. I'm not saying that by the final rounds he needs an oxygen tank or that his hands turns to pillows, no, but he slows down significantly. Perhaps some changes in Saúl's style in terms of active work with the hands or defense happens mainly due to him being afraid of fatigue, as cardio can't get better with age. Some will think that I say silly things and it's impossible to get old at 33, but let's not forget that the champion started his professional career at just 15 years of age, and that means that he has been competing for almost 20 years. Unfortunately, the time of every athlete is quite short, let alone boxers that accumulate damage with their bodies in geometrical progression. If we're talking about Jermell, the situation with cardio is quite the opposite. In the final rounds, this guy always turns up the heat, literally ranting and raving, even in those cases when he has already actively worked for 30 minutes prior to that. How does he do that with these muscles? Who knows? It's a true mystery. If the Iron Man with such cardio initially performed in Alvarez's weight, I would make a guess that in the championship rounds, he would put a bloodbath on his opponent, but considering an abrupt move in 2 weight classes, I can't be 100% certain of Charlo's endurance. Either way, he takes this one. Ask for yourself, who is more interested in this win? Of course, it's Charlo. For him, the fight with Saúl is not an opportunity, but a chance that happens once in a lifetime. In reality, Jermell was never supposed to fight Canelo, but we live in a crazy world where everything is possible, and I'm sure that the Iron Man is very happy about it. If he, the brave man who moved up 2 weight classes, manages to beat one of the best boxers of recent years, his life will be completely different level and Charlo and his team will finally achieve that fame they always dreamed of. Even in the case of a loss, they will have a perfect excuse. Like, what would you expect? We moved up 2 weight classes and lost to the best in the world. There's nothing to be ashamed of. As you can see, it's a win-win for Jermell in terms of media exposure anyway. As for Canelo, he is in a rather strange spot. I don't know what he wants, and I'm not sure that he really knows what he's fighting for. From a strategic standpoint, this fight will give him literally nothing besides another huge paycheck and title defense. Perhaps Álvarez is already preparing to retire and decided to make more bread with relatively easy opponents, which includes Charlo. Unfortunately, it would be very hard to beat a guy with fire in the eyes with such a pragmatic approach. In terms of mentality, the contender also wins in this. Conclusion. There is an opinion that boxers, fighters, or any other athlete from the world of martial arts should be evaluated on their last performance, as it's the most showing one, and I agree with that. Looking at Álvarez's last fight with John Ryder, we can see the Mexican's overall decline, and it was the red lining through the entire video. Whether we want it or not, we have to admit that Canelo is not the same uncrushable monster, and his time is running out. There is only one question. Did Saúl decline so significantly that he will lose to Charlo, who moves up 2 weight classes? Honestly, it's hard for me to give a definitive answer. No offense towards Charlo, but if this fight happened in 2018 or 2020, Saúl would simply eat him in the first 6 rounds, as he would be superior in strength and speed. But it's 2023 and Álvarez is not as fast, though he still hits hard. I think that with the right preparation, and it will be the case as the Ironman's team clearly knows who they're fighting, the super welterweight champion could move properly, not getting hit with hard shots to the liver or head. Brian Castaño, with whom the American had 2 fights, stylistically resembles Canelo, and his anthropometry, except for the reach, is also similar, so Jermell has some experience in working with such a style. On top of that, I'm 100% sure that Charlo doesn't have a chance to knock out Canelo or cause significant damage, as nobody managed to do so, let alone an alien from a different weight category. Can Saúl knock out Jermell? In theory, yes, but a contender has a really durable head. He also was never knocked out and will move a lot, so in this rivalry, everything will most likely come down to a decision. Almost all boxing fans believe that Charlo doesn't have chances to win. As for me, I see this fight to be a lot more competitive, but I will give the Mexican King a slight edge. I think that Canelo did not decline that much yet to lose to the Iron Man. His advantage in physical power and also his common weight will be the decisive factors. Most likely, Álvarez will have some success in pressing Jermell to the ropes and smashing him with combinations or torture him in the clinch, due to which he will take all the staring rounds. In case he manages to punish the liver properly, there might be a knockdown. In the end, Saúl will most likely gas and won't be as assertive, but even in this case, Charlo won't knock him out and snatch the victory. Thus, my final opinion, 60-40 in favor of an aged Saúl Canelo Álvarez. But again, it's my personal opinion and I express it based on my beliefs. Okay guys, now I want to hear your opinion in the comments below. Who will win? Let's discuss.